Wow, this forest has changed. And maybe I'm just a little more sensitive, or maybe I'm just hyper aware, but being mindful is an entirely new experience. Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm outside noticing all the new life. Man, I feel like I'm in sensory overload because I started documenting and sharing with you mindful practices. I've got a number of videos on the subject. I've also been participating more deeply in it myself on my walks in winter. In winter, the amount of wildlife in the forest is exponentially less. And the sensory experience, as far as what you're feeling on the air, what you're smelling, they're minimal. I mean, the bud burst just happened. I don't have full foliage yet, but there are so many smells. Depending on how damp it is, if there's a dew point, just the smells in the air alone, as I walk through the forest, as I navigate through different um, tree species and what's on the ground, I'm getting hints of leeks or ramps, as some people call them. I'll move into a coniferous forest and I'm starting to smell um, some of the needles a little more prolific on the ground on a hot sunny patch, and then just the tannins in the earth as I munch through these leaves here. But just the cacophony of birds. There are so many more bird species in the winter. There's a handful of our wintering songbirds and woodpeckers, but owls have returned, hawks have returned. There's at least a dozen more species of small songbird, and right down at every level. Some of them are very close to ground. We've got some small wrens and whatnot, but yeah. So, and it's nesting season, right? Like, they're out there. There's been an explosion of insects. So you might not be able to catch it in the frame, but I am surrounded by blackflies. I saw my first mosquito the other day. There was an explosion of moths. So, but the spiderwebs, like, that's part of the sensory experience. I've probably walked through a dozen already. So the act of changing the way I walk, not walking like a human, just focusing on the ground, trying not to trip, but walking like most other members of the wildlife community. Take a step, smell, listen, look around. You know, what can I eat, and how can I not be eaten? That's literally the mentality of most other living things. All right, so they're just aware. Obviously, my other senses aren't as keen to perceive through sound and smell, but I do the best I can. So I am becoming more aware through mindful practices, trying to be present, using my senses. So I feel as though, as I began the practice in the winter, just a minimal baseline, but I had a good foundation of how and when to do it. But now, as there's literally an explosion of life on the ground, starting up through the canopies, birds, insects, smells. Yeah, a little bit of sensory overload here. I'm really noticing what this brings, and we still have entirely new organisms have yet to appear. Some of the tree species haven't begun their bud burst yet. There's some swelling, but there's no foliage coming out in any of the ash. All right, the oaks are just starting. None of the species in the deciduous community have full leaf development, so that's exciting, but it's starting to get green out there. Get outside and notice for yourself. Be mindful, be present. Smell the difference in the air coming spring. Listen for those new birds, new members of the wildlife community running around, scurrying around in the forest, maybe swimming around in your local waterways, and feel how much life is around. I'm feeling mostly spider webs, but I feel the change in the air. All right, there's a difference in the freshness. Maybe it's the amount of ozone that's coming up through the ground now that we have ground instead of snow and frost. It's a season of change, and you have to be perceptive to see just how dramatic it has been and how dramatic it's yet going to be. So please go outside, be mindful, be present, notice the active living world around you. You're better for it. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you.